Okay, this is the e-NABLE R&D Hangout for Monday, 13th of October, 2014. And we were going to talk about alternative hand designs from the standard Talon, CyborgBeast, etc. for the kind of hands that those kind of hands don't work as well for. People with paralysis and have a full hand but not with nerve damage, or people who have partial hands with fingers in place, or people who are just missing a thumb, or all the things that are less less useful for the CyborgBeast style hands to work with. And we were just talking for a moment about Bob Roth's baseball glove, the catching glove. And anything else you guys wanted to say about that, or?
No, I think I got my update on the Bob Roth baseball glove, which sounds great.
I did make a bat device. I decided since he had a glove, he needed to, and so I had Greg send me a video of Luke swinging the bat. And he basically just wrapped his left paw around the bottom of the bat and used it as leverage to cause the bat to swing forward. So I came up with an idea of making a socket made out of orthocast foam and a piece of aluminum strip, and fasten that to his hand with Velcro, and then I screwed a lock line piece of tubing to it, and then attached another joint of lock line to a little strip of Velcro strap that would go around the bat. So now you have a swiveling socket connected to the end of his hand, and then it has a little too much tension right now. It doesn't break loose well enough, which is the easiest thing to fix. You just take a little burr whip in that socket and just scrape out a piece of material, and that thing will break loose easier. But I suggest don't worry about the release right now. Let's just let them just stand there and hit balls and learn how to use the device, and then we'll finish the release later.
That's great.
And so that's where we're at.
Cool. All right. So the trouble
he said it gave him a better swing, and so he sounds like it's it's not ready to throw away yet.
Very cool.
So I didn't really have any agenda. I was hoping more people would have shown up by now to talk about things. I noticed that one of the new Raptor designs has a Roth wrist on it. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I saw that Adam Arabian said that he was going to start adapting the Falcon's Roth wrist for the Raptor. Has someone actually done one for the Raptor?
Yeah, there was a post earlier this afternoon, actually.
Cool. Okay, can't keep up.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm going to guess that Mr. Meats has some show and tell to show and tell.
There's Skip.
Well, maybe not.
Another thing I'm working on with Seth Kane, I'm working on a device to hold for a chef, a friend of CJ. I was in a hangout with him a while back with Lydia, and he came up with a saddle type device, and he wants to just be able to hold some utensils. And so I've been talking to him about that, and he sent me some models of what he's been working on. And when SolidWorks opened up these models, they just look like some kind of crazy thing. So what my responsibility in this project is to design a swivel type clamp device, which I have done. And so it's just going to be basically kind of like, like the swivel you would see on a flagpole, a wall-mounted flagpole, or a seat post type rotating with a clamp. And so I have that designed, and so I'll be building that. And I have a silicone model, so I'm just going to be making a fiberglass saddle for his hand and mounting this pivoting device onto it that he'll be able to attach anything from a fork to a mixer or a spatula or any device he wants. And so I'll be working on that this week. And that's all I have to say about that.
You're still muted, John.
Good to see you, Nick.
I said, all of your stuff, this is not a criticism, is, I think, still handcrafted and not 3D printed. Which means
I have designed this to be 3D printed.
There you go. So one thing you can do is when you have a good mechanism is put out a call for a designer to work with you to make it into something that we can fabricate across the community.
Yes, that is in the forefront of my design idea. It has to be 3D printed. I was sitting out in the driveway the other day and I said, John Scholl will be so proud of me because I'm working on this design that it will have to be 3D printed.
All right then, I'm proud of you, Rob.
I think it was Skip posted a Raptor with a little silicone palm on it.
That's right.
Also, I'm not sure if Adam's looking for an invite right now. Looks
Oh,
like he
yeah.
is.
We try to send him another, or
Yep.
send him one if I have.
Yeah, hang on.
So, with regard to R&D, I don't know whether you saw Adam's post. I'm here at Nick Parker's home, unlike Nick Parker, because I'm at this conference on global and humanitarian technology, and there's Adam Arabian. And a couple of nights ago, I was sharing a hotel room with Adam, and we talked through a really, I think, very nice research and development paradigm, which he posted about. Hello, Adam. Long time no see.
Thank you.
And the basic idea is that, for example, Adam posted today about 3 or 4 really nice innovations that he's done on the Falcon hand. The plan is to make them Raptor-compatible modules, which is what Skip is working on also. And then what we can do when we're matching with families is we can find families who are willing to receive not 1 but 2 hands, one a control Raptor and the other an experimental Raptor with this new component. And then we can get that family to compare the 2 and give us feedback on the 2 designs. And that could become a really nice research paradigm for constantly testing and rolling in incremental improvements on the Raptor, and then either making them part of the new standard or just making them new options in the Hand-O-Matic.
Yeah. So A/B testing is an awesome idea.
Within subjects, A/B testing. That's right. Low N.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Adam Arabian posted the Rothwrist Falcon.
Oh yeah, that one's mine. Yeah. I shamelessly stole his work, so it'll be one of the things we try and A/B out, just like John was talking about.
And is that Nicholas Hall who has just joined us?
Yep, looks like it. Hi, Nicholas.
Okay. It's the silent, unmoving Nicholas Hall, who's supposed to speak louder than his words.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I'm covered with the mute button. Good to see you all.
Nice to see you.
So I can't see Skip, but I'm super excited to try out that new thumb. So I'm thanks for posting a 1.2 on that. Oh, looks like we just lost him. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm really eager to see that though. And Nick, I got to congratulate you. You're putting out ideas, and you found a fan who implements them about as fast as you can articulate them.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about Skip's new new palm and the new custom mold. It looks like he 3D printed it, which is fantastic. I mean, that'd be really cool to be able to just take it off the printer, mix up some ugu cheaply and quickly, and you just pour it right in there, and you're done with a palm in 5 minutes of work. That was really cool.
It's a rare privilege.
What are the elastomer palms targeted at? These are people that still have extant palms and are doing the usual wrist drives, or is it a attachment strap for that thumb thing we're making?
Yeah, good question. So originally, when I first the first one I did, which is, you can see that, but it really, what I saw as being a kind of a weak point in the existing designs is that there's a lot of surface area on that palm, which is just covered with Velcro, and the smooth side of the Velcro.
Right.
Low friction.
That's how we attach
the idea is, if you put something that's very high friction and it's molded into a shape that will that's very squishy, that will conform to shapes, you can actually really improve the grip characteristics of the hands without really increasing the power that you generate grip. So I did a bit of playing around with it. I don't really know what it's for, to be honest, but it seems like an interesting thought experiment to play with to see if we can improve grips without improving the actual force these very small children need to generate to pick up something.
On that very note, I've been using this 3/16 orthocast material to make my sockets, and it's this really cool stuff. You can get it, and I think it goes eighth to half or whatever, and it's a heatable material. It's a heatable material. If you put a sheet of that in the socket, you can get it hot and put the child's hand right in there, and it will form right to their hand.
Interesting. I have to look into that. That's new to me.
And it's the same material they use in ski boots and rollerblade boots. They get them really hot, and they lace you up in them, and your foot forms to them, and then from then on, you have a perfect fit boot.
Okay, and you're calling it 3/16 orthocast. Maybe you can find us a link and post it, because it sounds like something we should explore.
I have some. If anybody emails me, which is on my profile, or text me or whatever, I will send you some of this, and I will endeavor to find the link.
That's great.
What's the glass transition temperature for that stuff? Because basically we're seeing. I mean, anecdotally, I've heard that PLA is not that great left in a car, in a hot car in a hot climate. So I tend to think anything that is thermoformable in heat is going to have that problem. Is that the case for this stuff, or?
I think you would have to heat it independent from the structure of the hand initially, and then insert it.
Right, and then
I've played with.
You don't think it would sag or deform?
No.
I've played with the orthoplastic he's talking about. It won't deform in a hot car.
Okay. Is that because of its structure or because of the temperature?
It has a height. It starts transitioning very low, but it's a very long transition. Like, it's not to the point where its own weight would bend it until it's very, very hot.
Okay.
Just an idea.
No, it sounds cool.
Yeah, and so the elastomer palms totally make sense. The disconnect in my head was I forgot we were already covering their palms with Velcro. So it was like, well, I mean, keeping their what's the fancy word Adam was using? Proprioception would be awesome, but we're already not doing that.
That ship has already sailed.
Definitely, big improvement available there then.
It looks like Skip's design is meant to leave room for a palm to slip in there, which is a very cool concept.
But just on that note, so one of the I just put a post up, but I'll hit a few guys since everyone's here, or a lot of folks are here. So one limitation to Ugu is that, like most elastics, it's very strong, it's very stretchy, very flexible, and you can really tug on it enough that it'll stretch really well. The problem is once a tear starts, picture like pulling a very strong elastic. You snip it just the tiniest bit with scissors. That tear is going to propagate. Particularly if it's under tension, that tear is going to propagate right through the elastic and tear the elastic in half as soon as that first cut happens. I was looking at Skip's palm design, and I've been trying to think through how the heck do you attach this to a palm or to something else. And you can't really glue to it. Conventional glues don't work very well. My understanding is there's some high-tech glues that do glue well to glue. But I was thinking about attachment methods, and I started thinking about conveyor belting, which is just laminations of rubber and nylon fabric. So what I thought was, well, hey, I could do that. In my basement, I cut up some old T-shirts, and what I came up with is this. Not very pretty. You can see that Ugu spreads on it very nicely. And what's kind of cool about it is, when it's still tacky, it soaks right through. So what I did was I did a 4-ply lamination of, I don't know if can't see this very well. This is actually 4 pieces of cloth laminate with, going back and forth between laminations of fabric and Ugu. And this one's better. You can see on the top, there's, you can see that, there's a great big lump on the top of it. Now, if you cut this with scissors, it's not going to tear because the fabric itself is what prevents it from tearing. But it adheres incredibly well to the Ugu. You couldn't tear the plies apart, which is great.
And what is the cloth?
Say it again?
What is the cloth?
It's an old T-shirt that I just cut up into squares to do lamination. I think there's probably 1,000 fabrics that you could buy at Joann Fabric that would be superior to cut-up old T-shirt. But the larger point being, the question of how the heck could this be attached to something becomes a lot easier when you can sew it to something like, or you can do a lamination on a fabric. Now you can drill it. Now you can sew to it. Now you can do any sort of, the number of glues that'll stick to a fabric. There's any glue will stick to, like a ripstop nylon fabric, for example, or cotton. You can use a glue gun. So the mechanical affixing it to something becomes a lot easier, and the tear problem I think is largely resolved. If you just, and it's quick. I mean, you just make a batch, you spread it on the fabric, and you're good to go. And it took me all of 10 minutes to get 3 Ugu patches up. So Skip, if you're looking at
snap to it
in your palm, try just smearing some on some fabric and just drill through that and put a washer on there, and I bet you won't be able to rip it off that Raptor.
You could rivet a snap to it. Like a little half-inch snap button.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how would you form this around? How would this function in the context of the socket? How would you form this around the child's hand?
Well, you wouldn't necessarily have to. I mean, you could sew it right to the Velcro that they're using today.
Okay, I got it.
I mean, you could mold it around their hand, but what Skip did, and it was really great. He just built a 3D mold of a very anthropomorphic palm. You just pour the Ugu in there. I think you'd do a piece of fabric next to it, smear some on there, and then just glue the 2 pieces together. And then you would just, in the drill holes that are around the Raptor for attaching fabric, you just
I get it.
Screws and just affix it directly to the palm. What's nice is if you look at this 1-ply, it actually stretches.
Huh.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So if you're looking at how do I fit my hand into this Raptor with this piece of cloth or leather or whatever else that's nailed down to it, it's a lot easier if you can just stretch. You can just stretch that palm, slip yourself right in there, and you've got a nice form-fitting palm that's above it that really conforms to shapes and adds enormous friction. I don't know if anyone saw my posts from a couple days ago, but you can pick up anything with very little grip if you got enough friction in there.
Nick, is that silicone skin safe?
That's a great question, and it's a question I don't know. Yeah, one of the things I wonder about is, is it skin safe? And ultimately,
you can buy material that is skin safe from Smooth On.
That's right. We have done that and used it.
There's dragon skin.
And I've thought about doing it on a layer of fabric, and it all looks very promising and good. Cool.
Yeah. But by the way, I'm not saying that Ugu is the right solution. It's just something I can get a gallon of it in my basement for $10, right, and really start playing around with it. But I'm not saying Ugu is the way to go. And dragon skin is probably a number of products that make more sense.
Well, but if it is skin safe, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because it's a household product.
It is. The nice thing about the Type 1 silicone is it's not a real fancy mix. It's, on the label at least, it says 100% silicone. I'm sure there's some curing agents in there, but it's not some the ingredient list is not some crazy chemical cocktail that.
Don't most people use a thin sock over their hand in their device anyway?
I don't know. I just don't know.
It wouldn't necessarily have to touch their hand either. I mean, if it's generally they do have the Velcro, like you say, between them and the phone. But in any case, it's an interesting thing to play with.
Right.
So I guess my question, I posted this, but isn't there something we can simply apply? It seems like the more layers, I feel like the more layers we put between the person and the outside world, the unhappier we'll be. Maybe that's not true. But isn't there something we can just put on, apply directly on? I threw out rubber cement and let that dry, but I've never tried it. I don't know if that would work. But isn't there something we can put just directly on the, I think the post I put before, I was thinking about like the top of like women's nylons so that they stay up a little bit, that kind of tacky stuff, which is maybe silicone, I don't know. But isn't there something we can just spread directly on the Velcro and be done with it?
Well, I imagine you could put this stuff on the Velcro.
I think you can.
But would it adhere into the Velcro because it's plastic backed? It's basically nylon. I don't think this would directly adhere to the Velcro. You might be able to put a glue in it. But also this stuff is a little bit thick. I mean, it's intended to have its own kind of consistency. I guess it just seems to me that there should be something that you can just basically paint on. And I was thinking rubber cement, but I don't know. But something you can just kind of paint on and create a tacky, semi-adhesive surface on the palm.
But I don't think
this use a two-part silicone.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And Adam, I don't think the point here is merely tackiness. There's a fleshiness about the physical palm and the silicone, which I think becomes, it's not the tackiness so much as it is the conforming, which improves the grip.
So we get, I don't know. I mean, I again, too much research, not enough doing. So my boo. But we don't, basically because of the Velcro, we get very little actual compliance in the palm when you're using the hand. Is that a correct statement?
Well, I think so. I'm not sure which side you mean. I'm talking about the compliance of the palm pad to the object you're grasping.
Correct. But you've got your palm. I mean, the user has their palm in there. We just covered it up with Velcro.
Agreed. Right.
So the question is the fact that we've got this big, huge layer of Velcro, is that what's basically preventing the palm that is in there, which is compliant, from serving as a compliant element?
Totally. Assuming that we're talking about hands that contain palms.
Right.
This is also, I think, an unambiguous boon for arms with totally, where there's no palm to be had.
Correct. But I think to me that's a different issue.
That's right. Okay, so with regard to the hand, your point is well taken. Maybe we need a way of securing the hand while exposing the palm to the environment.
If we can do that, I think it would probably people like to have, of
course,
the sensation, the task completion, but it may not be feasible. And in the absence of that, if we have removed the palm compliance because of the honking huge pile of Velcro we put in there, then yeah, maybe that's. I mean, I think if that's the case, then definitely this is a good solution.
You could actually glue a layer of that orthocast inside the Velcro, because that glues really well to that Velcro strap.
It does. Okay. But, you know, Adam, I think you have identified an interesting point. I could imagine that you could attach to the wrist, you could have a band on the wrist here and a band here.
Right.
And then the fleshy part of the palm, which is intact on many of our hand users, would be exposed and available.
Yeah, I think my sense is that the Ugu is good for what we've had, but I think I kind of want to challenge us a little bit. Is there maybe a way to get it's what you're saying, John. Is there a way to get away from having this big obstruction on the palm so that people can still use that as a sensing surface?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
That wasn't what I was saying at the beginning, though. So.
I got it. Yeah, that wasn't your original point. I got it.
But I can bob and weave.
That's right. No, I think it's.
But you know, John's thought about maybe just kind of securing it at the top and the bottom might work. There might be some way of using a sock that gets secured in there, that gives kind of a tactile surface. I don't know. Sorry, someone else talking.
Sorry, the Ugu that was put through the T-shirt fabric, just a single layer, I think would be useful across the palm of people who have a meaty palm, because it would increase the grip.
I get it.
Yeah. If it's too stretchy. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, it would provide a tacky surface for the inside of the palm.
Yeah.
Right. But also for the outer surface of the palm.
But one thing that I was thinking, mechanically, all your force to the hand is at the top, so that's the part that's most important to capture. Anything below that is not as important.
Right.
Oh, whoops. Correct. Yeah, that's true.
So just to tease this apart, I think two really interesting ideas have emerged in the last 48 hours. One is this notion of a fleshy palm prosthetic for those who don't have a palm, and the other is let's use the biological palm for those who do, but that's going to require a different attachment for the hand. Both well worth exploring, and both, it seems to me, could be modular options to fit on the Raptor standard.
Absolutely.
The other interesting,
not to beat a dead horse, but one thing I think an issue just raised, apart from the palm, is that the force is coming from the fingers, and they're what's really important for the grip. Right now, we use the Lee Tippy slip-on finger pop things, which is great. What I did for my more recent, they're ugly as heck, but I just put a bunch of Ugu, I don't know if you guys can see that, on the whole finger. And what I found was that having a 3/16 inch thick piece of Ugu in there, it really conformed around shapes really nicely. And I was really astonished, and I was just tickled when I just put a pen in there, and I just wrote my name, and I just started writing sentences. It conformed right around the pen. The Lee Tippy will do it a bit, but not in the way that a thick pad of Ugu or some sort of molded elastomer on the fingertips at different points on the joints. It really conforms nicely around any shape, and it takes very little pressure to have an astonishingly good grip. I mean, with this hand, it's tough to pull things out of it once it's really conformed around a shape.
But you mentioned there's a problem with its resilience, though. It tends to tear. So you might, I would think that with a lot of operations and a lot of use, you'd probably beat the tar out of that stuff and you'd tear it up pretty quick. Is that what you think, or would it do?
I think that's true. And once again, that's one of the reasons I say I don't assume that Ugu is the right solution. It's just a way to play with shapes and forms
Well, what I
inexpensively.
like about it, though, is anybody can make it anywhere. And, you know, when we're talking about this as a global initiative, making a product or making a solution that doesn't require you to order tippy nails from Chicago or Amazon or anywhere else. You know, if I'm in India, I can't get tippy nails, right?
Right.
So being able to provide a solution is that even dragon skin isn't a great solution, right? That's a single vendor thing that I got to order from the States.
3M probably, they've probably better products for that. 3M probably makes something that's much more durable. I actually have a sheet. You remember those pads they used to sell to set your cell phone on the dash of your car?
Yeah.
Well, I actually bought some material that's actually stickier than that, and it's really mushy. And if somebody sends me their email address, sends me their address, I will send this to them. I have a little sheet. It's a little 6x6 sheet, and I'm glad to send it to you guys, just to feel and see if you can glue it or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know that stuff, and it is quite tough. I don't think that would tear the way Nick is describing for the silicone.
I got it from McMaster.
Well, when I say tear, keep in mind too, I mean it tears under. If it's just like a ball of it, you can make something that's almost exactly like a pencil eraser. I mean, when you think about tearing a pencil eraser, you can do it, but it's pretty rugged stuff. If you make it into an elastic and you stretch it from 3 inches wide out to a foot wide, and then you snip it with scissors, you can imagine that elastic is going to snap right in half.
Right, but that's a use case I don't see that we're actually concerned about.
We're not.
I think the only way we'll know whether it's an unacceptable solution is by getting it on some people. I actually really like the idea of having something that you can kind of press into some sort of feature on the fingertip and form a fingertip with. I think that's pretty cool, actually.
And, just one other thought to throw in here. I think we're moving towards componentry, if you will. And, for example, you can choose to have the padded palm or the other palm or something like that. It sounds like we could have some people who would specialize in making fingertips with pads that would again be plug compatible with the phalanges that came out of a regular 3D printer. So it's not like we have to anticipate that everyone is going to have to master all of these different techniques.
Right.
Nick obviously likes 3D things. Other people really like 3D printers.
The only challenge with that, John, is it goes against the shoe store model, right?
I'm not so sure. I'm beginning to think that the shoe store model might have a few layers. I'm thinking actually that we were talking about this last night. The latest thinking about the shoe store model is that A, the inventory does not all have to be in one physical location. We just have to know where the hands are. And B, there may be two different steps. One is the printing of the components, and then that's going to go to not a fabricator, but to a QA and assembler person who will evaluate the prints and then make it into a hand. And I could imagine that person would receive a hand from one person and fingertips from another person, and then they would assemble. It's not fully cooked, but the point is...
Here's an idea. I just remembered that McMaster sells little adhesive back buttons of this thin, gooey silicone material. They sell them already made, right off the shelf. They're little they come in different diameters, then you can just stick them on your fingertips. And if they stayed on there for 2 days, fine, tear it off and put another one on.
You got to send us that link.
I will do that.
In the last couple of Hangouts, we've had Aaron Brown showing his rails, his Picatinny rails on the hands. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking it would be kind of cool to have rails on the back of the fingers. But now that we're talking about the Ugu and Sugru type padding, what if you did the socket for the rail along the front surface of the fingers to squeeze the Ugu into so that it would hold it in place and be able to wrap around.
That's what I was thinking too. I was thinking, you know, almost a dovetail would work very nicely, or an inverted cone in the print, so that you're not just relying on a glue. You're relying on an actual mechanical bond. Then you've achieved two things. One,
Absolutely.
much better. It's stuck on there better, and then two, it's replaceable, right? You've got the same shape. You know, send somebody 10 little fingertips, and when they wear out their first set, you know, the next one snap right into the same place. If they take up, you know, juggling sharp objects or something of that nature, and they manage to, you know, to cut up one, they can easily interchange the other.
Right. And once the ugu is in place, it might even be possible with a broken finger to take the piece of ugu out of it and slot it into the other one if it's the same size.
That could be fun.
Hey, what have you found to be the best formulation for your ugu, Nicholas?
My favorite thing is I use glycerin.
Okay.
I use artist acrylic. They cost 50 cents at Walmart or any craft store. I use glycerin, which you can get in any, which sounds, it's 99.5% glycerin, but you can get it in any drugstore in the United States in a 6-ounce bottle for $5, and that'll make you can fill a room with ugu with that much glycerin. It takes 2 drops. So type 1 silicon, 1 part type 1 silicon, or let's say 1 tablespoon type 1 silicon, maybe 5 drops of glycerin, a teaspoon of cornstarch, and just enough artist acrylic to make it, you know, a nice bright red, or you know, whatever color you want. From the artist acrylic, you can make it any color you like. It takes color very nicely. But glycerin seems like the magic thing for me. Cornstarch seems less important.
I would encourage you to look at some other products like 3M, or Google some other products. You might just stumble on to a really great product that would give you the more durability, more moldability, more friendly user. I don't know. You might find better material than that.
I agree. In fact, my family business growing up was called Portland Rubber Company. Worked with a lot of urethanes, a lot of very high-end specialty products, and like I say, and like you mentioned, there's probably 1,000 products that are better than ugu.
Yeah, but from my standpoint, looking at fitting stuff around the world, which is that's my little myopic view. I like that somebody can make it out of their drugstore. So
no,
I like
point
that
well
too.
taken.
Yeah.
Point well taken.
But that is my myopic view, which is not an e-NABLE issue. That is an Adam Arabian issue. So
well, it's one of our issues.
Speaking of issues, I'm going to have to say goodnight. Please contact me if you're interested in sending me any of the stuff that we talked about. I will post these links on this material, and God bless all.
You too, Bob. Thank you.
I was talking to you, Bob.
Dinner is ready. Okay. I'll be there in 3 minutes. Okay. Let me give you a parting thought here, okay? I think this was actually a really wonderfully dense, idea-filled discussion. You need a catalog because there aren't that many people who are going to watch the video in hopes that it was an idea-filled discussion. I think somebody, maybe Trouble, maybe someone else, should take responsibility for providing a readable synopsis, ideally even with, and it doesn't have to summarize the points, just say, at this point in the video we talked about this, at this point we talked about this, or extract the gems. But the point is there's a lot of good stuff that is going to be watched by Skip and us and very few other people unless they know what's in here. That's my parting words of wisdom. You notice I'm not volunteering to do that work.
Right, I'm not very good at the editing and messing around with the Google Documents. I'm good at handling the security, but my English skills get a little weird when I'm trying to take notes. But I'll see if I can go through and get this stuff transcribed into the into the notes document. I forgot to get the notes document open this time too.
Yeah. Okay, so by the way, I'm not saying a transcription, but if
Right.
you just had,
No.
5 bullets for the 5 key topics, that would start becoming a real resource for people who wanted to track this stuff down. See you
Right.
later, folks.
All right, good to see you, John. So I noticed that both of you posted. Oh no, it was Adam and Skip both posted rotatable thumbs. Your new Raptor design, Adam, had a rotatable thumb that I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if it works yet or not, though. So I'll know. It's in the printer probably tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So we'll find out where we're at. And I haven't built one of Skip's yet, so I don't have a. I need to build one so I can kind of say, hey, this is better than ours, or this is what we think we're doing differently. I definitely think it's the killer app, I guess, for lack of a better term. If you look at traditional prostheses, and 80% of, or well, 60% of your standard grip patterns, it's this. This is really what people want, not this. Problem is, this looks goofy if you're just walking around all day with your hand shaped like that. So cosmetically, it's great to be able to put it like this. Functionally, this is what you want. So, I don't know. I'm as soon as I can get a Palm and Skip's unit into the printer, I will. He indicated, though, it looked like there was there were 2 printed parts, and then he talked about a spring. Is there actually a spring that needs to be purchased for making it work, or is that a printed spring element?
I'm not certain. I've seen so many of these rotatable thumbs in the last couple weeks. One of them had a pin that you pulled before rotating, and it would hold it in place until you pulled the pin, and it would rotate, and then it would hold it in place again. One of them might have had a spring for the same thing, where you could twist it, but once it was in place, it would lock it in place.
Okay, so so I'm looking at this. He's got a spring from a ballpoint pen is what he's using, and then some kind of little ball bearing. Yeah. I'm looking at his pictures right now. So yeah, so he's using a sure enough spring in there, but it's an easily available one. I don't know where the ball he's using comes from for his D10. So we're kind of doing the same sort of thing, except we're just using sort of a lever arm of plastic, for lack of a better term, for the D10 spring.
Yeah.
So I mean, right now, I don't know if it's even going to work until tomorrow. We haven't gotten it working yet. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, but.
That makes me think of one thing that I'm really interested in. I wanted to bounce off both you guys, and that is, you're doing a thumb, Skip's doing a thumb, someone else is. Ultimately, with all of these new designs and variations, the question arises, which is better, right?
Right.
So one of the things that I'm really interested, I really think we should think about is developing a e-NABLE prosthetic utility framework. Essentially, you start with what's useful to people, start from there, and then say this is what this is how we score a hand. The ability to pick up a 5mm marble or place 5 or 6 5mm marbles from one bowl to the other. That's a task that's quantitative that we can measure. So if we had 10 such measurements, for example, we could come up with a hand score. So one of the things I'd love to work with some of the very talented occupational therapists that we have that are part of the e-NABLE community and say, because this is really that's what they do is working on getting as much utility as possible and working with them to develop a framework so that all the folks that are coming up with great, it kind of guides designs where it becomes clear to designers what are the major challenges, what are the weak points in the hands, what are the major challenges we need to address in order to kind of raise that e-NABLE score for the percent.
I 95% agree with you. The last 5% is what I've seen in industry and also in publications, which is you build to the test.
That's true.
And so you have to be super careful in defining the test, because otherwise people say, well, I want to get that last marble in. When at the end of the day, getting that last marble in is way less important than something else. So
Right.
I am almost entirely on the same page with the only caveat. You've been talking about this, and I've been silent, but I totally agree with you. We need to have some sort of metric. Now, one of the metrics is what John was talking about, and I think is also right, is you design to the standard, which we being whoever it was, determined is the Raptor, right? You design to that, which is what Skip did, right? And so he said, I'm going to bolt onto the thumbless Raptor.
Right.
And that enables people to make a hand. And they can make it with a minimum amount of modifications. It's their comfort zone. They know how to make it. And so you can put it out there and you can say, here's thumb 1 from Skip, here's thumb 2 from Adam, and here's thumb 3 from Mark Petrikowski. Which one works best? Which one works worst? What features do you like from each one? So, I think some of it will come organically just by people trying them. You know, a lot of it may simply be, though, does it not break? Like, you know,
Sure.
Yeah.
this thumb may you know, that's my concern about our thumb, is it's just not going to hold up. So, you know, that's kind of the...
Here's another weird question. I wonder if there's a way we can make modularly replaceable thumb. So you don't like the Skip Meets thumb, you pull it off and put the Adam Arabian thumb on.
Well, I mean, that's basically what Skip did. I mean, he's bolting it on to the thumbless, and so we could standardize on that. I don't like it because it looks like something you bolted onto a thumbless Raptor, but in that, for R&D, that may be a really good move. That's not a bad answer for at least the early stages until you say, all right, this is the one we're going with, and then you put your nickel down. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, well, when Aaron started doing the Picatinny rails, the idea of using rails for everything has been popping up in my head anytime we start any conversation. So if I start mentioning...
What is this? I don't know what you're talking about. I seem to have missed that conversation.
So the Picatinny is a standard that is used by the military for attaching...
Yeah, I know what that is.
So Aaron Brown posted a hand with Picatinny rails on either side of the palm, on either side of the gauntlet, and hold on, let me call. I'll be right back.
Sure. I'm trying to find this.
Yeah, I can't find a picture of it, but basically, yeah, you just have two rails on either side of the palm, and you know, if you want to attach a flashlight or a whatever, chef's knife, whatever you can attach.
I mean, I've got a student working on that right now. That's why I'm so interested. So, I mean, if there's a solution that somebody's identified already, I think that's great. The direction we're going is to not modify the hand and engage on features of the hand that are already there. And so that's why I want to see a picture of it, because if it changes the way the hand looks, or if it commits you to a certain appearance of the hand, then I find that to be a little bit negative, because it means you're making the hand look a particular way, which isn't necessarily bad. But what we're looking at is taking basically the gaps between the fingers and then that kind of hook on the back of the thumb, and basically having a snap-in module that engages on features that are already there. But if you can find a picture of that, I would love to see what he's doing, because I can't find it in any of my...
I'll see if I can find it. I'll probably share it with you in a personal hangout a little bit later on when my browser's not acting so strange.
No, that'd be fine. Just drop me an email or something. That'd be great.
Yeah, it's pretty simple though. He just took on Thingiverse there's a standard Picatinny rail model that he's taken and just merged it along the edge of the gauntlet and on the edge of the palm.
Okay.
And he's got one rail on the the non-thumb side of the palm.
Yeah.
He's got 2 rails on either side of the cables on the back of the gauntlet,
Okay.
and you can mount like laser pointers, flashlights. He's got a
Okay.
got a utility knife that he can attach to it.
So that's a little bit different because we were talking about stuff that would be in the palm area, like you kind of want to secure it in here, and so he's talking about more utility, like a rail that you put on your rifle, right?
Right.
So that's a little bit of a different feature set, but the approach is. I mean, I was talking to my student about this today, and I was saying, look, don't worry about what you're oh, cool. Hang on a second.
I got the picture up here. Is that
Yeah,
my
that's
sharing?
it.
Oh yeah. Okay, so it's that undersided chamfer thing. So so if you look at that, what we're doing, I wonder if I can. Are you allowed to mark up on a doc?
I don't know.
I wish I could point at something. Anyway, but basically what we're looking at is having basically a palm capture spot, if that makes sense. So basically something that snaps in to the space between the 3 spaces between the fingers, and then wraps around the thumb on the thumb side back there.
Yep.
And so it would just snap in. And so the reason we were looking at this is one of the patients we're working with, trying to design to, is we're working with these Syrian refugee patients, and he was sort of a jobber, laborer type things, and he needs to be able to hold a paintbrush and a paint roller. Everything. How do we enable him to do that all day long? And we're looking at the clamp tie thing, which we're working on too. But well, why not modify his paintbrush to secure to his hand rather than making his hand, have to hold it all day long? So that was kind of the concept. And so we've got a couple of different things. So what I told him is think in terms of building a standard. It's like the rail standard, and I'll definitely show him that. And maybe there's something we can do with that. But think in terms of engaging on defining a standard rather than solving a single problem.
Yeah, I think
Mohit.
maybe Bob Roth was working on with a chef in a socket design, like you think about like a Phillips head, like a screwdriver that has the interchangeable bits, the little hex interchangeable things with a little ball bearing on the spring, etc.
Yeah.
And looking at retrofitting, his kitchen tools like his knife, his pots and pans and that sort of thing, with that same kind of hex socket where you could just kind of plug and go in a very secure way.
Oh.
Totally different than what you're talking about. But.
Not necessarily though, because the challenge that we're having is how do you size it for various things. And so if what you do basically is you say, I'm going to make a palm holder that's sized to a 3/4 inch hex.
Right.
And then everything we do, just figure out a way to put a 3/4 inch hex on.
Right. Yeah.
Or alternatively, you go to the rail system and you say, I'm just going to size everything so just figure out a way to put it onto the rail. That is an interesting idea.
The other thing that's nice about the rail system is that since you've got both sides of the rail as part of the components that you can add to things from Thingiverse, building a rail onto whatever device you're trying to, or building a socket to mount onto a rail onto whatever device you're trying to attach.
Yeah. Like
your paintbrush could attach to the palm. Rail.
Yeah.
Rail
so
off.
Basically, you modify the paintbrush to seat on the rail. That is the standard, and so you have to figure out how to engage this rail on the palm. But then you don't have to worry about anything after that. I like that. Hey, can you, oh, I think I saw that hand. I just didn't realize that's what that one was.
Yeah.
That's the link there.
That was the soldier-themed hand?
Yeah. Yeah, if you go to like the Google Plus community and just type in Picatinny, it pulls up the post pretty well.
Okay.
Just have to know how to spell it right.
Yeah, I don't know how to spell that.
We hope that everybody that's talking about it is.
Yeah, well, it's like Picatinny Arsenal. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at the group chat, the link, I added the link right there.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And you know what? My student will he'll think it's just awesome that he's designing something to a rail system. So.
I do think that the hex attachment system, though, with your palm piece, if you had, a piece of the palm that or the piece that goes over the front of the palm that made to like a 3/4 inch hex. That would be a pretty bomb-proof attachment.
It would be.
You wanted to put
I'm
on.
not sure. I mean, I don't know how well the rail deals. A 3D printed plastic rail deals with trying to peel itself apart, but I really like the approach, and the rail might be the right way to do it, or it might be something else. I like that.
The problem with the rail is it does slide too, though, right? I'm not sure how.
Yeah, it looks like it's got some kind of detents in there. You'd want to design some little snaps to engage in there, but
there's a slide, and you can also on the socket side of the rail, the piece that's sliding onto the rail, will often have spots to screw through that will cause it to lock where the gaps in the rail are.
yeah, but you don't want to make somebody screw it in. You want it to slide in and go. You know, you want to minimize that. So, but we're doing some stuff with basically 3D printing spring clips, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, you know, you could just make spring clips that are going to engage into those grooves, and it should hold pretty well. So I'm going to look at both, and it would work whether you do the hex attachment or the rail. So I'm going to forward that to my student.
You were talking a lot about how to attach things to the palm. If I was following this correctly, is it something that you could just build whatever you're putting on the palm piece to have slots for the Velcro straps to go through?
No, what we were thinking was basically, so what I was thinking at the time, and I'm not sure this is the right way to do it, was basically something that snaps into the finger and then down here, but it leaves, but it's got either a V groove or an arc into that you could seat something into. So let's say I want to hold a paintbrush. I put the paintbrush in, and then I snap a lever over the paintbrush, basically, and that's what holds it in place.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so now that I think about it, the downside to going with the rails or the hex attachment is it means you've necessitated moving everything out some, as opposed to if you just snap in a securing system, then it's squeezed into your palm and it's closer to the center of gravity rather than kind of pivoting way out in space.
But there's no reason the rail can't be on that palm piece, on the underside of that palm piece, if you know what I mean. What you're snapping on could have that rail right up the center of it, if that makes sense. Like this.
Yeah.
Could be the rail.
So maybe you can do both. Maybe you have the rail on the outside of this snap-in piece. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So
yeah,
I
you have
mean,
the rail on the outside, so you can have some things that are that, but you also have the inside thing that you can use to. Oh.
I was just thinking also, if you want something on the polymer surface, if you took, I mean, there's ridges where the Velcro snap when you strap in the Velcros, right?
Right.
So you have that groove there. If you had like a clip, that'll kind of snap on over the piece and have like a bridge.
Yeah.
And then you can decide whichever kind of attachment, whatever else you want to do. You don't have to do anything more extra between the fingers or anything of the sort.
Yeah, that's basically what we were looking at. I wasn't sure we could get away with using the Velcro attachment because you got the Velcro through there, so I didn't know how much space we had. So what we were looking at, what we were considering using was snapping into the space between the fingers and then down around the base of the thumb, basically. So if you look at the hand you've got there, see how it's got that kind of weird angle down there? I think we can snap in there, but I'm not sure.
I think, I mean, what's great to me about the palm is that it's just a whole lot of real estate in the hand that we're really underexploiting. I mean, right now we just put some super slick Velcro. I mean, there's 100 things we could do to it. In a solution like yours, which had never even occurred to me, is really great because if it's modular and it's easy on, easy off. I mean, sometimes a Picatinny rail, maybe that's the right thing. Maybe sometimes it's a hex head. It was interchangeable.
Like a snap grasp.
Right. I mean, sometimes maybe what you want is a molded palm. Sometimes maybe you don't want that. If you had a modular.
So what I'm thinking is basically we define a standard attachment scheme, and right now all I can attach on is the area between the fingers and the base of the palm. But I think once we've validated the concept, then in Raptor 2 or 3, whichever one it is, in the next version of the hand, then we have the opportunity to define attachment points for that approach, rather than having to make do with what we got. But
well,
I think
we've done that kind of. I mean, we've got. You probably can't. No, there's no way you can see that. We've got like, 15 pre-drilled holes. We could screw stuff to it, but we can be a lot more sophisticated and just have a snap-in, even if it's just like a snap-in sort of system. Just, like you said, the attachment methodology is what's important. We can do better than screw holes. I guess that's the bottom line.
Yeah. If you were going to put a rail on the palm, it would be nice if it could be rotatable, like on a turntable.
Yeah, that's true.
But
so you could basically groove it so it could engage at different spots. So what we're doing for that rotatable thumb, we're trying to get away from any hardware, any metal hardware at all. And so what we did was we built a post with a spring clip in it. But the nature of the plastic, it's all chamfered in, and so if you twist it, it'll kind of ride up and it'll spread out a little bit. So we can probably do the same thing for that. You use a plastic post with a spring clip, and then you can basically pull out a little bit, and you should be able to twist it. That's cool. Yeah, I'll put that in there too.
Yeah, I'll be interested in seeing how rugged the plastic post is.
Yeah, that's my question. We made it as big as we could within the real estate,
Right.
And it's because it's squeezed into the palm really tight. It's actually doesn't have a lot of bending on the post itself, but it is the weak link. We may find that Skip's design is just plain better. We may find that, I mean, honestly, as far as raw strength goes, the one that Mark was showing over the summer is probably the strongest one. I mean, it's got a honking huge piece of hardware in there. Looks kind of rough because it's got a big huge piece of hardware on it, but it is almost certainly going to be the strongest option.
Right.
So, but I haven't seen his latest. It may look better now too, because I mean, all I saw was a very preliminary version. So I gotta hang up, but I will definitely. I'm in the midst of emailing my student about that rail thing. That's pretty cool. So I'll let you guys know how it moves.
Yeah.
So awesome. All right, good to see you, Mohit.
Yeah, see you, man.
All right.
How's it going, guys? Sorry I joined late.
Hey, no worries.
Nick, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice meeting you. Seen you around the site.
Yeah. I was just on a call with Haiti. Some people from Haiti for the global outreach program. We're trying to build up right now, and yeah, some pretty interesting questions they had raised. But I guess I'll post up a summary, and we're gonna start needing some ideas for, I don't know, storing filament in like humid and hot temperatures, and just power solutions too, alternative power solutions to provide like consistent electricity to the printer, so we don't lose prints midway through.
You can buy desiccant pretty cheaply on Amazon. I wonder if just adding a lot of packets of desiccant to the whatever you're storing the filament in might be a simple answer.
No,
That's
definitely.
We're exploring at our makerspace. You can buy it, like you said, Trouble. I mean, it's like it costs just about nothing, and once it's soaked up enough moisture, you can just throw it back in the oven, and it's good to go again. You can just keep baking it. You're going through baking cycles, so it's not like something you have to keep reordering, which is great. What we're thinking of doing for our nylon filament in particular, that really is very hydrophilic, is making like basically storing all of our spools in like a little filament humidor or a reverse humidor. Right? Just fill the bottom with desiccant and lay all our spools in there. And I'm pretty sure it'll be dry as a bone. Just bake it every once or twice a year, and we're good to go.
No, that's great. I mean, I guess that's actually a really, really good idea. I guess the initial problem would just be shipping it down, because it's not necessarily price, but it's volume and weight, which we have to take down ourselves. So But definitely we'll write that down. We'll definitely consider that for storing the filament. I think there were some other conversations earlier in the summer. I think Shashi and some other people were discussing about their different storing solutions they have, so I got to look back and research into that too. So cool. Very cool. What else did I miss?
It's been a very, very dense conversation this time. There have been a lot of ideas proposed in this one. We've talked about everything from different ways of rotatable thumbs to the different rail systems that we were talking about just a second ago, to different materials used for increasing the grippiness of the palms, discussions of different ways of handling the Velcro straps for people that have partial palms to allow more of the palm to be in contact with whatever they're gripping. We've talked about, we started out talking about Bob Roth's baseball mitt, the catching mitt. We talked about I think it was Adam had a print that had one of the Roth wrists that if you flex it this way, these fingers, or if you flex it this way, these fingers clench. If you flex it that way, clench. So he had one of those wrists that he posted, and we talked about that for a little bit. And yeah, there's been a lot of ideas. I'm going to have to go through and probably make a list of bullet points about the things that were talked about in this one. I'm going to have to rewatch this one and just make a list.
So one thing, by no means very important, but one interesting thing I came up with tonight is, if you've seen any of the Ugu posts I've been doing, the biggest problem with it is it's very elastic, but like any elastic, if you stretch it and then cut it, it'll just snap right in half, no matter how thick or tough it is. Cuts propagate through it really easily. So what I did was I actually, like a conveyor belt, like you see in a grocery store, I started doing laminations of oscillating between fabric and the Ugu. So here's a piece of it here. You can see on the back, this is just a piece of cotton t-shirt. What's really interesting about this is it stretches, right? And it doesn't affect it's still intact. What's great about that is you can cut this, but you can't tear it. So if you want to affix Ugu to something, it doesn't take adhesives very well, but it does glue like a son of a bitch to fabrics. And this is just cotton. I'm sure there's better ones. You can see this one. I don't know if you can see this. I'll hold it still enough. You see the white down there, layers of red?
Yeah.
It's actually plies of fabric in Ugu. This is strong. It's unbelievably strong.
How water soluble is it?
It's not water soluble at all. I mean, it's I don't know what to compare it to.
It's silicone and cornstarch, and all the water solubility of the cornstarch is driven out by the silicone.
Yeah, it's waterproof. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff to play with, and it's not the end all and be all, but
it's
most places in the world you can get Type 1 silicon. It's been around since the 30s.
Right.
Any place they're doing construction, you'll find Type 1 silicon.
Ugu was designed as an open source Sugru.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. That's interesting because I'm trying to that post Eric had shared before about the rolling diaphragm for the pneumatic system.
Yeah. That's cool.
I'm thinking about using that for a pneumatic device, for an exoskeletal device to like help move arms, full arms. Tim Fouts is one of the members. He joined for some time before too, so they put out a request for a device like that, and I'm trying to help them out and come up with a prototype. So I'm actually going to look into this Ubu, and see how I can actually build it myself, and then or at least if I need to build it. And I'm curious as to how thin I can make it and still have it very flexible enough so that you can do the whole rolling diaphragm design.
One thing I'd say you'd want to try to do is buy a thing of glycerin. I don't have any with me right now, but in any drugstore, cornstarch is great, but glycerin I found is actually better. So if you plan around with Ugu, just go buy 5 ounces of glycerin from the drugstore. It's like $5. any drugstore in the country,
Mhm.
and it totally changes the properties of it. It turns into something I don't even know what to compare it to, but it's different than just standard ugu. It's a little slicker, which is interesting. Maybe an application like this, silicon is a great lubricant. I'm not suggesting ugu is the right thing for this application. You're probably going to wind up getting a very high, very relatively expensive specialty urethane that's going to hold up better.
Mhm.
But God only knows, what the mix will be. Smooth-On will be a great resource for you. Once you get further down the road and you start thinking about what are the properties of the material I want, what's the elasticity, what's the density, what's the tensile strength, that kind of thing. Smooth-On is a company that specializes in molding, so they probably have 500 different formulations of urethanes and rubbers and all kinds of weird, wild stuff. So you can probably find some more useful stuff to play with than just there.
Okay, because I was hoping Bob was gonna be on the call too. He's mentioned he's worked with rubber molding before, so
Yeah.
The original patent, the original design calls for using a rubber kind of using vulcanized rubber to on a mold in order to make the actual these diaphragms.
Curiously enough, I do have a lot of experience with vulcanization of rubber. I was a conveyor belt technician in heavy industry for a number of years. And we used, I spent basically every day for about 5-6 years working with a vulcanizer. Basically all it is just a big, if you picture like a clothes iron, the press would heat up to 300 degrees, and you'd put whatever you wanted to cook under 100 psi. And we were doing conveyor belts, an inch thick, 3/4 of an inch of rubber. But in terms of vulcanizing rubber, it's not rocket science. You just need 300 degrees and 100 psi, and obviously you need your initial rubber mix. But vulcanizing rubber is pretty doable.
So it's nothing I can really do in my backyard, though.
You're not going to do it in your backyard. You're going to have to, if you want to vulcanize, you can do it at home, but it's not something where you're just going to buy something off the shelf and like Ugu mix it up. You're going to have to cook it and pressurize it to get it done.
One thing I was kind of curious about was, I don't know if you guys remember that infomercial with that spray-on rubber. The guy cut out the bottom of a boat and sprayed like a screen door with it, and then like sealed it over, and like it kind of was waterproof. And I was curious to see how. It wasn't plastic; it was still rubber. He had used it to like.
The name of the product is called Plasti-Dip. It comes in aerosol cans. And like car modders often will like paint their car in it, or they'll paint rims with it, which is kind of cool. And it's almost like a latex where it goes on in a very thick, 1/10 of a mil layer with one coat. But it's almost like a latex glove in terms of how thin it is and its elasticity. But it comes in a spray can. It costs like $5 at Home Depot. It comes in a bunch of colors.
How do you spell that?
What's that?
How do you spell?
Yeah. And there's generic forms of it. I think Krylon has their own version, and it's pretty. Any major like Home Depot or Lowe's will have that.
Yeah, I just haven't got the hardware stuff. But I figured if I at least can build enough, big enough mold, or at least a mold for what shape I want for the diaphragm, then I could just spray that over. And I don't know. I mean, I was just curious.
I think it's tricky in that it's designed to go in very thin layers. So I would be, my concern would be it might work, but the cure time would be very, very long because it's designed to go in fractions of a millimeter thicknesses, if that makes sense. So it's not like it's a two-part, like an epoxy where, make it as thick as you want. You've got 10 minutes before it sets up like a rock. This is something that's designed to air dry. So you would have to be cautious about a really thick layer.
Okay, I mean, that still might work because with the rolling diaphragm, you're still, you want it to be thin so that there's not as much flexion in you're actually able to bend it but still retain that seal and that property. So it might be actually more ideal than, okay, cool. We'll see. I'm going to a workshop, somebody's workshop on Thursday, so we'll be playing around with different things, and I'll definitely start collecting materials for this Ugu stuff too, so we can build some molds.
It's all posted. That Disney thing, that was pretty wild. I'd love to see if that can be reproduced.
Yeah, the videos were pretty impressive too. So I'm excited to work on that.
There are a lot of articles about Ugu on Instructables if you need to look.
Yeah, if you Google it, you'll get inundated. It's probably people are using it for all kinds of crazy stuff.
That's awesome. That's what Zether. Great. Yeah, I'm hoping that using building a pneumatic device will be a little more. It will be better weight-wise for Tim, and I'm even thinking just trying to implement a small little air pump, that like on his heel or somewhere else like that he can just pump up on his own at the beginning of the day and have a little canister that'll store the power until he actually needs it. So it's some different wild ideas I'm having right now, but we'll play around and see what we can build on Thursday.
I mean, obviously, the technical hurdles are big, but to pull it off would be pretty awesome. I mean, that'd be cool.
I'm trying to start really simple with just getting having one set of tubes for elbow flexion, and then another one for arm shoulder abduction, adduction. So he's able to at least extend his arm, and I don't know, even if he can reach up, that'd be cool too. But eventually, next phase is to implement something for the hand. But right now, I just want to be able to move his arm around and build those muscles up.
Mohit, have you seen Elizabeth Jackson's airy arm or airy hand?
Yes, I have. I actually met her at the conference too. Briefly though, but I'm still not sure how she's actuating the device and how it's actually moving.
Elbow motion is or elbow or wrist motion, depending on which configuration she's using it in.
Okay, yeah, because Tim is a stroke patient, so he has no movement at all.
No movement at all.
I'm trying to figure something that can move it for him, and he can build up, at least prevent atrophy at least the muscles, and then see what's available for that later on. His family, his medical resources have been pretty resourceful, and they've been giving some more support. I'm going to talk to his doctor probably tomorrow or day after, his surgeon, and see what he has to add to ideas wise.
He and his wife were on this hangout at the beginning, but they didn't say much, and they dropped off fairly early.
Oh, okay.
But they were here for a little while. I was hoping to see Elizabeth Jackson on here. I'd like to see her. I'd like to see more, like females in STEM thing. I'd like to see more of the women who contribute so much tech stuff to our community come on to some of our R&D hangouts and chat about things. That's one of the nice things about e-NABLE is that since there are a lot of children involved with receiving the devices, we end up appealing a lot more to female engineers, and we end up with a lot of mothers taking on engineering roles just to help their kids out, and I like that it's encouraging more of that engineering into.
Yeah, the area arm, that was a pretty cool piece of work. I was hoping she'd be on here to see that too.
Yeah, are there videos of that being used or demonstrated?
There are. I don't know if any of them are publicly shared. I'll see if I can dig one up and share it with you.
Okay, cool. I'm actually going to jump off. Bob just reached out. I don't know if I should just get him to join the R&D call. Do you want to shoot him a message and see if he wants to join this one, or?
Roth, or?
Yeah, Bob Roth.
I'll invite him. He was on earlier.
Oh, okay.
So if he doesn't want to join, he might not.
Okay.
But it's sent.
I had one thing I wanted to bounce off you, Treble, and that is injection molding. Have you ever heard of a company called Protomold?
I haven't. No.
So basically, they're like the Amazon.com of injection molding.
Okay.
That's all they do. They're made for small run things. Usually, you buy an injection mold, you're looking at like $50K.
Right.
Theirs started around 14,000, like $14.95, like $1,400. Very cheap. But that's all they do. They've got a ton of stuff. They have a 160,000 square foot facility, and all they do 24 hours a day is pump out cheap aluminum CNC milled molds. And these are not molds these are not heirloom molds that you make it in the 50s and run it for 70 years, like the $50,000 ones. They'll get you about 1,000 parts or 50,000 parts. But I thought it'd be really interesting for this if we picked 5 standardized sizes. I'm not saying we could do that, but everything I'd looked at in injection molding was we could never possibly afford to do this. Looking at proto mold, I think it could be possible. I think they do it cheaply for us because of who we are and because of the press we get. From a PR standpoint, just an article with e-NABLE, I could get them $100,000 worth of press coverage. That this 3D printing company, moving over to injection molding, they might be willing to work with us. But Bob, you just popped on. I'll let you in.
Yeah, go ahead. Questions.
I just want to plant the seed of the idea, but I got to drop off. But great meeting you, gentlemen, and talking to you.
Hey, well, before you drop off, I don't know why I got this call, but before you drop off, I'm pretty familiar with plastic injection molds. I've never actually built any, but my dad was a mold maker, and
cool.
It's a different trade than what I do. But I'm familiar with what it is, and I know people that do it, and it can be done. Actually, an engineer friend of mine came by with a part the other day that was pretty complicated, and he said the mold was only like $3,000. But and it also depends on how many cavities you're going to put in it. I do a lot of blow molding tooling, but I don't do any injection molding. But it's similar in a lot of ways. But I guess my point being that it can be done. It's going to cost. I'm just going to make this number up off the top of my head. It's going to cost $10,000 to make a mold for one hand. One size of one hand, and maybe $7,000 to $10,000 to make one mold for one hand, one size.
Right. I think that's probably you're saying all the pieces for one hand.
Yes.
And that's a heck of a lot cheaper than it was even 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, and as soon as I say that, it might be we could get it done for $5, and
right.
Like you said, you talk to the right person who knows who we are.
It could be
we
free.
Could get it done for $3.
Right.
And I will try to do some research on that.
I was looking at a company called Proto Mold, which is what looks to be like the Amazon.com of molding. They specialize in low production runs. So we're talking like 1,000.
That might be the exact people that this guy had talked to.
I think very possibly.
I will post on tomorrow when you post this chat. I will make a post about that.
I'd love to hear his experience, because my thinking was John's been talking about the shoe store model, and as it is now, we're rolling out 10, 20, 30, 50 cans a week, probably more like 20. But if this thing scales and a lot of people want these, it's going to be a lot easier to scale to do statistical analysis around the demand that we have using the data that comes out of Handomatic. We can put together an inventory, a forecasting model, and say, look, 80% of our hands would fit these 5 sizes. 20% never will, and that's going to be your 3-year-old or your 4-year-old and your 85-year-old man with enormous hands. 20% of them will always have to be totally custom. Right. But if we can hit 80% of our core with just 5 sizes or even 3, in terms of the number of pieces we could do inexpensively, injection molding might make some sense in the future as designs mature. So not something I'm saying we should do now, but just
something we might consider as an option is we could just mold the fingers. We could make a mold for all the different fingers.
Yes.
And that would probably cost, again, $5,000 to $10,000, just say, and then just print the palms.
So one of the things I was thinking about in terms of it being modular, all my fingers are a different size. The pinky of the size large could be the index finger of the size small.
Absolutely. There's a lot of crossover, right?
Like overlap. Kind of keep the part count down. The palm piece may always be custom, but if we could do just the gauntlet and the fingers, from a print time perspective, we've really reduced the time. Our quality will always be 100% perfect. The cost to produce will be quicker. I don't know, just something to have on our radar.
The strength will be off the chart.
Right, exactly. We could do very complex things, very bomb-proof out of any material. We're not limited to Fiberflex PLA ABS. we could start doing some pretty cool things if we want thinner cross sections or stronger tie-up.
What was the name of your company that you mentioned?
Proto Mold.
Proto Mold. Okay, I'll write that down. Okay, I'll do some research on that.
But like you say, if we could find the right people and start the right discussions, we might be able to do this for free or for half the price of what it would cost, a normal bunch of people.
I have a couple different CNC vendors that I use, and there's a significant possibility that I could get my people to do the CNC work.
Wow, yeah, that would
everybody, I'm a tool maker, and everybody that I know is a tool maker, and so I work in this network of tool makers, and some of them are mold makers, and some of them are wire EDM, and so
that's very cool.
That's my field.
Yeah, cool. Well, I didn't realize that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I'll be curious to hear about your friend's experience, with whomever he worked with, and get what kind of pricing you got. But
okay.
I know you guys had other things to talk about. I didn't mean to hijack the conversation. I'll let you guys get to it, and I got to hop off anyhow.
You've done a fantastic job, sir. Real pleasure.
Thanks. It's great meeting you, and I get to talk to you guys later.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. How you doing, Bob?
He dropped off too.
Oh.
I think he didn't. I should have told him when he came on immediately that that you had been the one that wanted to talk to him.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If you want, we can go ahead and wrap up, and I'll let you call him directly.
Yeah, sounds good. I was going to say the same thing. I don't want to keep you on for keep on hosting if you didn't have to.
Yeah. Well, it might not need to be broadcast, so I'm going to kill the broadcast now.
All right.
And,